Hello and good morning. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So we've been going over the book by John Maxwell's The Leader's Greatest Return, and we are on chapter 3 today. But before we get started, we're going to go ahead and invite some people on. You'll have to excuse us because this process is a little long because we have to go invite everybody one by one.
Yay fun.
Yay. There needs to be a select all option on Facebook Live so that way we don't have to physically go tap on everybody. But no, that would be way too easy.
What's tomorrow? Friday?
Yep, tomorrow is Friday. Alrighty, back here. There we go. All right. So we're on chapter 3 today, which is understanding leaders. So connect with them before you lead them. Leadership is always a people business. And before you lead and develop people, you need to connect with them and you need to find common ground with potential leaders. So soft skills such as questions and listening, having empathy for people's journeys and understanding their perspectives are crucial in today's leadership environment. And people don't commit to you when they understand you. They commit to you when you understand how they're feeling. So this happens when you take these actions. You value them, let them know you need them, include them in your journey, adopt a teachable spirit, ask questions, listen well and often, and seek to know their perspective and give credit to those who help you, express gratitude to those who help you, and replace me with we. So I wrote that weird. Sorry, I was trying to understand what I wrote there. So if you sweat with your people, the people can handle the heat, which basically means if they know that you're going through it with them, they're more likely to stick with you until the very end. Because the biggest complaint I hear from people, even in the normal workforce, is people are like, this person doesn't get it because they don't know how I feel, and they're not going through the same thing that I'm going through. So if you are getting down and dirty and helping these people and you're right there with them to sweat it out, they're more likely to stay with you because this person understands exactly what I'm going through and they're with us, not just telling us what to do. So try to see the world from their perspective. So shift from it's all about me to it's all about others. So how do you get those perspectives? Well, number one, learn perspective thinking. So most people are insecure, give them confidence. Most people want to feel special, compliment them. Excuse me, hold on. Goodness gracious, there we go. So most people want a bright future, give them hope. Most people need to be understood. You want to listen to them. And that list goes on and on. Number 2, practice perspective seeking. So ask the people on your team what their takeaways were. And sometimes they catch things that you may have missed, and also gives you insight on their understanding of the leadership dynamics that occurred in the room. So if you're developing someone, get their perspective first and then share your own. Sometimes you're able Sometimes you're able to teach them something, and then other times they might be able to teach you something. But the key is you want to listen to what they have to say first. And that can kind of give you an idea to where exactly they are at. And sometimes there might be another lesson that you can teach them. Like that was something that when I first, me and Jeff first started working together, and we still ask each other this question, is like, what did you get out of this event? You guys have heard me say that we make a list of every event that we go to, where you make a list of what was done well and what could probably be improved on. And that's not necessarily for the people that are hosting the event, but it's a way for us to learn that when we do our own events, we're like, okay, that was really, really smooth. Let's write that down and let's see how we can incorporate that into our events. Even though now we can't do that because obviously everybody's at home and we're really not able to gather up in meetings as of yet. However, it's something to practice, and it's a really good way to learn something. Number 3, engage in perspective coordinating. So how do you, sorry, he's moving around so much, I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm like trying to speak, but I can't hear over his clutter. So, anywho, number 3, engage in perspective coordinating. So how do these different perspectives relate to others' perspectives, and how can they improve the team? So John talks about this whenever they have a team meeting. He likes to get everybody else's perspective and opinion first, but then as he goes through the room, once everyone else is done talking, he tries to relate the different things that everybody says to each other, and what that does, that creates commonality, and then they have to work off of everybody else's ideas and how to incorporate them. So always ask questions. Asking questions has the opposite effect of giving direction. When you ask questions, you create a discovery room for them, and articulation, communication, innovation, and problem solving. So a lot of times when you're working with people, sometimes they don't always want the answer, which is true. And we'll hear this from people, like I've told them time and time and time again, and why are they not listening? And I'm guilty of this, because I'm very much a person where if I see an issue, I'm like, okay, well, let's just fix it. Here's the answer. Now just go do it. And unfortunately, not everybody works with that. And I've had to learn that the hard way. I've had to deal with a lot of smashing my head against the wall with people, because this is something that I didn't understand. And now I'm getting a lot better with, rather than trying to give direction, I'll ask them a question. Like if somebody on the team is struggling, they're like, man, why am I want to be busy, like why am I not busy? And instead of saying, well, I told you to do this, this, and this, I ask them, and I'm like, oh, well, that's funny. What do you think you should be doing to make those numbers better? And a lot of times they already know the answer, they just need to say it. But since it came out of their mouth, they're more likely to do what they're supposed to do if they're the ones who say it, rather than you telling them. Because sometimes people do know the answer. It's just you need to let them come up with it. And that's where the best coaches come into play in the industry. They're not the ones who give the answers. They just ask the right questions. So what questions do? They create space for open conversation. They place value on others and their opinions. They help people know one another better, invite everyone to participate and clear up assumptions, and cause people to think and guide the conversation. So leadership isn't control, it's influence. You don't want to control people's responses. You want to influence their thinking and actions by asking the right questions. And the questions you ask guide the direction and the pace. And the deeper the questions go, the deeper the understanding, and often the deeper the connection. The more questions you ask people, the more you get to know about them. And the more you're going to be able to work with them, because they feel like this person is somebody who actually cares, and I'm going to stick with this person. So assumptions are the mother of all mess ups for leadership. So not asking enough questions for people and figuring out where exactly they are at is going to really mess you up, because you're going to think one thing with a person and it really was something else. And asking more questions also keeps you calmer. I've noticed a lot of times when people have disagreements, it's because they jump to conclusions, not actually having a conversation with a person. So you need to ask questions mostly with yourself first, like, why does this upset me? What actually happened? Was it really what I thought it was? Go ask the other person some questions, and then you need to find the common ground and see how you can resolve the issue. So it applies there as well. Front end questions. So you need to see more than others see before others see it. So then you will be able to form questions that make your time with potential leaders as productive as possible. So this will accomplish several key objectives, which is to set a direction for the conversation, draw out what they see and compare it to your perspective, discover their initiative potential, and learn how much they rely on assumptions, and find out if both of you are on the same page. So asking questions is going to help you understand how the person thinks, because you really don't know how to give somebody direction unless you understand where exactly they're at. And understanding how people think is also going to help you teach them better, because we've talked about personality types too. Different personality types learn things differently, and depending on how you say it to them will determine how they actually interpret it. So if you want to be effective at developing leaders, lead with the questions. You can always give direction later. Lead with the questions. If they absolutely need the help, then you can say, okay, I see you struggling. Do I have your permission to tell you something that's probably going to make you mad, but it's going to help you? And that's where getting permission comes into play. Back end questions. So good questions asked on the back end can often prompt people to make discoveries and learn from themselves. And if they miss the lesson, you can always take a moment to teach them. So the front end question sets the agenda, while the back end question maximizes the agenda. The front end question encourage preparation, while the back end questions encourage reflection. So both kinds of questions increase understanding and pave the way to an effective leadership and development in others. So becoming a better listener. Basically, the biggest thing is that I got out of the chapter was you need to ask a lot of questions, but then when you ask those questions, you need to listen to them. We always hear this, like everybody needs to be a good listener, but how many people are actually applying it? I started actually writing notes in my phone when I go and meet people, because we do talk to so many people. I leave notes in my phone of what we talked about, what questions I asked them, how they answered to the questions. That's just a way for me to help me remember the conversations I had with people, because that way later I can address it and be like, oh, well, at one point we talked about this, and it helps me really understand and get to know people. But since we talked to so many, it just helps me keep everybody organized. And it's kind of funny, because I'll even have clients who will message me and they're like, wow, I came here a year ago and talked to you about this. How the heck do you even remember that conversation? And I don't tell them I put it in my phone, and I'm like, oh, well, that's just what I remembered. And people think that is the coolest thing in the world. It makes people feel special. So it's something that I do, and it's just a way for me to keep track. But the biggest thing is ask the questions and really listen. And Jeff, I'm going to have you talk to them about becoming a better listener.
Which is ironic. Nothing.
You weren't listening?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
He's so bad. Shame on you.
I mean, again, my perspective on this is, after recruiting many people, is you always want to give directions. You're always trying to say, hey, here's what to go do. Here's what to say. Here's how to say it. And I guess I got different things out of this. Understanding leaders, because this is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show about leading and recruiting, and it's geared towards direct sales and network marketing. So if you're going to go out and recruit people, I mean, understanding who you're bringing on your team is so important. Understanding what they want, what they're looking for. Yes, you have to give directions. Yes, you have to specifically tell them, here's what to go do. Here's what's expected. But that's after you figure out who they are. I've had a lot of instances where I've worked with people and they've gone up and either tried to recruit them, had a conversation, presented to them, and they haven't even asked them their names. They're like, if you don't even ask somebody their actual name, how in the world do you expect that they're going to actually join you in whatever you're doing? So this, it was really good. Brandy went over value them. Where are you at? Listening, understanding.
Become a better listener. Hold on.
So I take notes completely different than her. So she'll throw something to me, and I don't even follow what the hell she's doing because
that's why you should have been listening. See?
Well, even with
and following along. Also, I take notes very differently. Mine are very organized, and yours are kind of like clumped together in a way.
Thinking. Yeah, so I actually don't have anything that she has down.
Well, do you want me to do that?
Which
then?
chapter are you on?
I'm on chapter 3. Which chapter are you on?
This is supposedly chapter 3 notes. Yeah, just go ahead and finish what you're doing.
I'm just going to finish what I'm doing.
Don't throw stuff at me.
All right, so I was actually following the chapter and writing down exactly where we were. I don't know what's up with his notes. So, my notes are organized. Anywho, the moment people see that they are becoming understood, they become more motivated and understand your point of view. So so becoming a better listener. Number 1, listening leads to understanding people, which Jeff kind of already talked about. If you don't understand the people that you're bringing onto your team, you're not going to understand how to work with them. Number 2, listening is the best way to learn. So Larry King said, I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. If I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening. Number 3, listening engenders trust and connection. So Billy Graham once said, a suffering person does not need a lecture, he needs a listener. So a person who is not going to listen, how well do you trust a person who is not listening to you? Like, I've sat down with multiple people who have tried to pitch me different opportunities. Like they've caught me in the mall, they've caught me at Starbucks, or I've actually sat down and met with them. And they do all the talking and they ask me a couple questions, but they're talking so fast, I just felt like they weren't actually listening to me. And then they're like, well, see, I know so much about you now. Now you're going to get into business with me. And I'm like, that doesn't really work that way, because people can tell when you're just asking questions but not actually listening to them. And some people try to like almost half-ass everything. They're trained to ask questions but not to listen because they're in a hurry to get the result. You need to slow the pace down and pay attention to the person, because even if you're making eye contact, people can tell if you're not actually paying attention and you're focusing more on what you're going to say more than what they're actually saying. And it's really a shame that that's how people are, but unless somebody points it out to you and shows you that that's what you're doing, a lot of times people don't catch that they're doing it, especially when you're new and when you're anxious. Or a lot of times if people are desperate, they're trying to get something without actually doing it the right way. And that's why we're very keen on when we bring people onto the team, we're like, you have to be in a different stage of your life to be able to do this, because I'm like, I don't want you to run around and desperately trying to get people in, because people can tell if you're desperate. And you don't want to have that come across in your presentation or when you're sitting down with somebody, because as soon as you start rushing people and they can tell you're not listening, you completely lose all trust from the person you're sitting down with, and you're never going to be able to get them to work with you. So that's pretty much what I got on the listening part. I'll let you take over with what you got out of the chapter.
I'm good. I'm going to put my notes in the final, or in our MLM Lunchtime Leadership group. So we'll get those over. I just put up chapter 2 as well, that I was able to take. So appreciate everybody for jumping on, and we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.